thanks, Mo, for organizing this, and thanks to all of you for joining us here at the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami. To start things off, many of you have heard of Ethereum. So I imagine many of you have. So Ethereum had the largest crowd sale in our industry. They raised over 31,000 Bitcoin, and of course, when you have that much Bitcoin, you need to make sure that you secure it properly. Ethereum chose Bitcoin Sultans and Cyphex to secure their Bitcoin.
I'm Eric Lombrozo. I'm the co-CEO and CTO of Cyphex Corp, and we build software for peer-to-peer transaction networks. And I have participated in several open source projects, including Bitcoin, Ripple, and Ethereum.
And I'm Michael Perklin. I'm the president of Bitcoin Sultans, the first Bitcoin consulting company that specializes in security. I'm also director of a nonprofit organization, the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada. It's a nonprofit that promotes and educates about Bitcoin in Canada. Also, I'm the director of the Cryptocurrency Certification Consortium, which is a standards body that provides standards and certifications against those standards. And finally, with the upcoming Bitcoin Foundation elections in a few weeks, I'm running for one of the seats. So we're going to tell you a story about how we work together to secure these 31,000 Bitcoins. Now, although a couple of the details have been changed a little bit for this presentation for security, the design itself is still very much what you're going to hear today.
So almost exactly a year ago to the day, not too far from here, a few blocks, I met with the Ethereum team and we discussed what would become the biggest crowdfunding project ever in our space. We needed obviously to have a very, very high level of security, and we wanted to make it very usable so that it would be possible to train personnel to make it, to make the policies enforceable and, make sure that everything went smoothly. The first thing we needed to cover were the risks.
That's right. So there are quite a lot of risks that need to be thought of when you're securing that many Bitcoin, and they fall into three separate categories. The first ones were the easy ones, the environmental risks. Things like fire, flood. These types of things will obviously destroy a computer or destroy the paper backups and make you lose your Bitcoin. So with those easy ones out of the way, we took a look at some of the more intermediate risks, and these were the human risks. Things like theft from outsiders, if someone were to break into an office to steal the Bitcoin, or even insider theft. Either with malicious intent, if somebody actively wants to steal from Ethereum and they work within Ethereum, or through coercion. If, God forbid, one of their daughters were kidnapped and they were being forced to send the Bitcoin to the kidnapper, it's kind of a dark thing to think about, but unfortunately, when you're dealing with that many Bitcoin, you do need to take all of these types of risks into account. And the third is the most advanced type of risk, and these are the technical ones. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about random number problems when it comes to applying Bitcoin digital signatures. Blockchain.info had a relatively recent incident with this, and in August 2013, all Android wallets that used Java also had a similar problem. The fact is that these kinds of pseudo-random number generator problems can be introduced either by accident, if a developer accidentally makes a mistake and without realizing it, exposes the vulnerabilities into the process, or it can be done on purpose. If somebody actively puts one of these vulnerabilities into the software, now they can know all of the Bitcoin keys that are generated from this. So all these risks sort of need to be taken care of. And one last advanced risk that we have to worry about was modified hardware. Now, some of you may remember from last year, as part of the Snowden leaks, it came out that the NSA was regularly redirecting delivery packages, things like laptops, network switches, and other computing hardware. They would redirect it to a station, carefully open the package, modify the internals to either put listening devices in or remote control devices in, so they can remotely access these devices once they were in the field. They'd package it all back up and tape it so it looked like it was never opened and put it back on its way to the target. Anybody who would receive one of these packages wouldn't even know that these kinds of back doors are now inside their hardware. So all of these risks, whether they're the easy ones, the intermediate ones, or the difficult ones, all of them needed to be accounted for in the system. And once we knew about all of the risks and we enumerated each one, then it was time to start to tackle them. With the wallets, the choice of wallet software is not the only thing that you need to worry about, because as we've seen, it's not just about the technology, it's also about the people. It's also about the process. The entire information system needs to be secure, and not just one of the pieces. And an information system is a combination of 5 things. It's the software that's running, it's the hardware that runs that software, it's the personnel that are interacting with the system, and the policies and the procedures. Every link in this chain needs to equally be secure, because as we know with any chain, if you have one bad link, it doesn't matter how strong all the other links are. It doesn't matter how strong one technology you've chosen is if you have poor policies or poor procedures. So with this in mind, we started tackling it with the number 1 on the list, which is the software.
So, well, a couple of years ago, when I first started working on what would become Msigna, which is a desktop wallet application, there were really no good tools that existed for doing a lot of the stuff that we wanted to do with Bitcoin. Even though the protocol supported things like multisigs, and there was also, I'll get more into deterministic multisig in a second, there really was nothing available for that. And about a year ago, there still was almost nothing available. Now it seems like a lot of people are starting to come on board with the deterministic multisig, which actually we were the first to do, and we're happy to see other people doing that as well. So deterministic keys. In the early versions of the Bitcoin software, all the keys were randomly generated. So every single time you wanted to make a backup, you had to copy all the keys over. It was really difficult to synchronize accounts between multiple machines. With deterministic keys, you just generate one seed, and then all the other keys are generated automatically from that. So you only need to back up one piece of information. So this was one component to it, and the other one is the multisigs, which is a feature of the Bitcoin protocol which allows you to require more than one signature to authorize a transaction. So you can have a general M of N policy. So what we did was we combined these two things. And so this enables you to have a very high-level account structure. You don't need to generate your multisig scripts directly. You can actually just say, I want another Bitcoin address to invoice someone, and it'll automatically generate another address for you. And all of these addresses are going to have the same policy. So a couple of the design requirements for Msigna were that we needed it to be open source, because it's very important that anyone be able to audit the source code, to be able to make sure there's no backdoors, to make sure that all known vulnerabilities with libraries, OpenSSL, or anything like that are addressed. And we wanted it to be highly portable, because we needed to run it on different OSs. We currently use it on Windows, on OS X, and on Linux, on several flavors of Linux, and on several different kinds of processors and hardware. And finally, BIP32 compliance. How many of you have heard of BIP32? So BIP32 is a particular scheme for deterministic keys, which became a Bitcoin standard, and we have full support for that as well. We also built a whole protocol stack that speaks the Bitcoin protocol, so it does not rely on using RPC calls. It actually speaks the Bitcoin protocol natively. And we support general M of N multi-sig transactions, up to 15 different signers. And our platform gives you full control over all of your Bitcoins. We tried to find a good balance between usability and security. So our platform allows you to have full control over your Bitcoins, but also provides you with a pretty simple to use interface that makes it more, it gives you kind of the best of both worlds. Ultimate security with control, while having something also more like a web wallet. Our account architecture functions, like I said, you can have multiple devices that each generate their own sets of keys, and then those are generated deterministically. Those are fed into a policy. The policy then leads to an account which is used to generate new Bitcoin addresses. To request a payment, what you need to do is, we actually designed a signature request protocol which allows you to query different devices for signatures, for transaction signatures. So these devices can be anything from a server that's running that just implements certain rules, or it can be an offline device for offline signatures, or it can be for manual authorization. You have an account and you want to have a device actually require someone to say yes, I want to send this transaction. And once all the signatures are added, then the transaction is broadcast to the network. This is our GUI, our front end, and as you can see, this is literally just point and click. We wanted to make signing as simple as possible. So here you see an example of an unsigned transaction in a 2 of 3 account. Alice has signed, Bob and Charlie have not signed. Charlie's about to sign right here. I spoke a little bit about the software. As Michael has said earlier, there's other areas of security as well, so he'll go more into them as well.
That's right. So now that we have the software side covered, it is time to tackle the other 4 pieces of the information system. The next one was hardware. Now, as I mentioned before with the Snowden leaks, there was a lot of worry about hardware that would be modified in transit, or hardware that may not be as secure as it should be, or as untouched as it should be. So one of the initial requirements that came in from Ethereum is that they use open hardware. We took a look at a Raspberry Pi, because that's probably one of the most well-known open pieces of hardware, and our test showed that it didn't perform as quickly as we hoped. With a little bit more research, we found another, the BeagleBoard XM. So the design covered a BeagleBoard XM as the CSD, or the cold storage device, which would protect all the keys. Now, while this is a really interesting board, there were some worries that we had about the board. Those of you who know about cybersecurity and how entropy is generated for keys know that all of this entropy is generated from human input, whether it's the timing between your mouse clicks or your mouse movements, or the timing between your keyboard taps, or even the timing between the packets arriving on the network card. All these things are not deterministic by the operating system, but they're fed in by users of the system. And the operating system listens to all of these pieces of entropy, it mashes them all together to create the random bit stream that's used for key generation and digital signatures. But when you have an offline little guy like this that has no network, so there are no packets to time, and it's going to be used only for signing. So you turn it on, you apply a signature, and you turn it off. There's very little opportunity to feed all this entropy that it needs for secure random numbers. So we were thinking, how do we make sure that this pseudo-random number generator is secure? And then it sort of hit us, rather than mitigating the risk, why don't we avoid it? So we abandoned the pseudo-random number generator, and we found a true random number generator. On screen here is an Arrhenius Alia 1. It's a true random number generator that uses a reverse biased junction to create Gaussian white noise. Now that's a lot of mumbo jumbo, but basically, it's inside there are 2 little leads, and a voltage is applied across it. And every once in a while, an electron will jump that lead. And you can't predict when this happens. So it uses this white noise generated from inside this thing to feed entropy into the system, so you always have a secure source of random numbers. With this intact, then we moved on to designing the actual wallet system. Now, although we're showing 2 of 3 setup here in the presentation, of course, mSigna supports up to 15 signatures, but we set up with a standard M of N system where any 2 of 3 would be needed. And we set it up by geographic site, or by city. For example, we're here in Miami today. I'm from Toronto, and Eric is from San Diego. So each of these 3 cities would have one of these cold storage devices, one of these CSDs, and any 2 of them would be needed to apply the signature. Taking it one step further, we nested another layer of M of N inside. So within each of these cities, there are 3 operators. And any 2 of the 3 operators need to sign together to sign on behalf of that city. And then another 2 of 3 operators would be in another city, and they would have to sign on behalf of that city. This means that there are 9 operators total in the original design, and any 4 of them, as long as they're from 2 separate cities, need to sign to make sure that the transaction can be broadcast to the network. With this 4 of 9 setup, it gives a coercion factor of 44.4%, which is quite good. The coercion factor is how many people you would need to coerce in order to steal from the system. Anything above 50% and it becomes quite unusable. Anything that's too low doesn't offer the redundant security that you need. So with this in hand, we added some custom software to make sure that it worked just like the missile silos do with nuclear launches. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the movies where there are two keyholes on two different sides of a room, and two operators, they take their key and they both have to simultaneously turn the key. Well, with multi-signatures, normally it's an asynchronous process where I'll apply my signature now and then Eric will apply his signature later. But we wanted it to be simultaneous. We wanted multiple actors within a city to both be working together simultaneously at the keyboard to apply the digital signature for that city. And we accomplished this by daisy chaining a bunch of open source software using some custom code. This includes GPG for asynchronous encryption, Shamir's secret sharing scheme for secret splitting, Lux for encrypted volume storage, and of course, Msigna for the cryptographic key management. With all these together, we were able to develop a system that has similar properties to the nuclear launch codes without actually having the nuclear launch codes. Even still, risks would still exist. Excuse me. These operators, if their identity were to be disclosed, then bad actors can start targeting them and trying to coerce them, maybe kidnap some of their family members or break into their home looking for the keys. So we needed to make sure that the identity of each of these operators were kept confidential at all costs. Also, the location of the CSDs should be kept confidential too, to prevent them from being accessed by unauthorized individuals. Maybe malware would be installed on them when they're being unattended. And we also implemented some policies and procedures, the most notable one being the key compromise policy, the key compromise protocol. This is a disaster recovery protocol. It's a 5-step plan where the moment any risk of compromise is identified, whether it's I notice that my paper backup has gone missing, or I notice that the CSD itself appears to have been tampered with, or something like that. Or maybe one of the operators has gone missing for a day, and we believe he may be kidnapped and being held at gunpoint trying to get the keys. Whatever the potential for compromise, whether it's for the key or the operator, the key compromise protocol is implemented immediately. And this is implemented by all of the operators of the system. They all create new cryptographic keys. Then they create a new wallet based on those cryptographic keys. They send a test amount to the new wallet with these keys. They all sign that test amount out of the wallet to make sure that they can access the funds. And then finally, they send all the funds to that address. By doing this, whatever the compromise was, or which may not have been a compromise, but whatever the perceived compromise may have been, is now immediately removed from the system because that operator or that key is no longer involved with the system. So by having this plan in place in advance and making sure that every one of these operators were trained in how to accomplish it, we gave assurance to Ethereum that they can keep their funds safe no matter what happens.
So this is just one application that we did for Ethereum with our platform, with our software stack, and with everything that Michael did here. But it's clearly not the only application. Any kind of application where the operators will want to have full control of their Bitcoins is a good candidate. And obviously, exchanges, escrow, also for inside your own company, if you want to make sure that you have policies you can enforce and you want to have accountability and transparency. Our platform allows that, and also for personal Bitcoin storage. It's a very nice wallet to use, and you can use it just to spend when you go e-shopping or whatever. And then we're also working on another part of this, which is for volume transaction processing called CoinSocket, which is a full API that supports the entire stack and everything that we just discussed. And we're actually right now integrating with some partners. We're working with Alpha Point to integrate tightly with their software platform, and Bit is going to be an exchange that will be launching soon that will be using our platform. So everything that we've already showed you right now is available. Please feel free to contact us. We'll be around. We'd love to answer any questions you might have. And thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everybody.